To begin with, as you know, a survey was sent out prior to winter break. A due date was January the 6th, in which parents were asked to respond whether they wanted their child to be a virtual or hybrid student. A question was asked, did we survey the students to see what they wanted? No, we didn't, and we wouldn't do that and have two surveys going out at the same time, especially if the parents and students don't agree. So it went out for planning purposes, and we didn't survey the students. Our survey results here at Mountain View showed that 55% of our students wanted to return to a hybrid schedule, and another approximately 45% of our students wanted to remain in our virtual setting. Those are our numbers. And before I get into the questions and what hybrid learning will look like, I did want to talk about a couple things. It was clear from the questions, first of all, that we definitely have people who believe both extremes, both points of view about COVID-19, health standards, mandates, whether we should be in school, whether we should not be at school. I read a lot of frustration, some anger in the questions. And I'm not really talking about debating that tonight at all. I'm here to answer some of the main questions that have come up. I did want to answer the one question about why. And that would be why we are doing a hybrid and why we're not doing more. Everything the school system does, everything that we do in Mountain View High School is under the governor's executive order. Currently, we're under executive order in phase 3, which allows schools to return at 50% capacity. Stafford County Public Schools, where we created this hybrid system, where we divided students into two groups, and so that we would have 50% of our students back in our schools. In August, the school board opted to delay our hybrid instruction until second semester, which is set to start February the 2nd. The question of why aren't we planning to return to normal, and why don't we just return to normal, and when will we return to normal, and when will we hear plans of returning to normal? You won't until the governor's executive order changes. Until the executive order changes allowing us to return to school in a full capacity, you will not hear plans of returning or when we're returning, because that's an unknown. So there is no plans anytime soon until the executive order changes. Questions are asked on the other end of the spectrum. Why would we go to a hybrid? Virtual's working, virtual is great. Why would we even do this? The health concerns and so forth. We are providing an opportunity for students. Virtual learning works for many students, and many students are thriving in this environment. But we also have many students it's not working for, whether it's grades, social, emotional, and just their well-being. So this provides that opportunity for students as well. And the beauty of it, you get to choose whether you remain virtual or whether you remain or whether you come back in a hybrid model of instruction. And I recognize and respect the fact that the decision to do so, one way or the other, is a personal decision for you and your family and your students. I was asked many, many times prior to the deadline of January 6th, I'm still not sure, what should I do? I answered that question from a planning perspective. We must plan for the hybrid students. It's easier for us to plan for a hybrid student, to be here, and then for them to opt to go virtual. It will be very difficult for us to plan for our hybrid students and for somebody to say, from a virtual student, say, I would like to go to hybrid. I'm not sure I'll be able to accommodate that request. I was accused by many people trying to get people to come back. Why is Mountain View, question was asked, why Mountain View trying to get people to come to hybrid? Was not trying to do that. I understand and respect it's a personal decision. It has no impact on me, your decision, other than I wanted to plan, and I have to plan for February the 2nd. I got asked, what would I do? Again, this is not my decision for you. If it helps, my stepson and his mom elected for him to be in the hybrid. He'll be returning to school in his group on February the 2nd. And then the question was asked, if I do choose, like you said, hybrid, and it's not working, when can I go to virtual? When you determine it's not working, it could be before, maybe we start a ways and it's not working for you and you would like to go to virtual, you'll be able to. You won't be able to bounce back and forth, mind you, but if it's truly not working for you and you chose hybrid, you would be able to go virtual. So I want to start answering questions. And first I'd like to start with, how will school look? What I am sitting in here today is a very typical classroom and how they will be set up. In each classroom, you'll see the desk sitting 6 feet apart from one another, similar to what you see here. Each classroom will be outfitted with a large monitor in the back of the room. That monitor will be hooked to the teacher's Chromebook, where every student who's virtual will appear on that monitor. Each classroom is outfitted with an owl camera. An owl camera looks something like this. It doesn't look like an owl. It has an eye at the top that does resemble an owl's eye, thus the name. And this camera will follow the teacher and the sound of a teacher all over the room. It also has a great microphone so we can get classroom discussion, teacher discussion, and it also serves as a speaker. Looks similar to your Bose speaker at home, perhaps. That allows the teacher to move about the room and see the students. To answer one of the questions that came out, for a few exceptions, again, for a few exceptions, teachers will be in the classroom. Teachers will be in the front of the classroom. Some students who elect hybrid will be sitting here. So the teachers will be with students. Those on virtual will be on the monitor. Those exceptions would be when teachers are medically unable to be in class. If your child is in one of the classes where a teacher would be teaching remotely and not in his classroom, you will be notified by letter later in January. Students will bring their Chromebooks in the classroom. They'll sit at their desk. They'll log into their Chromebook. They just will not be logging into Google Meets. They'll have Canvas access and the same access here that the students at home would have. I was asked a question of, if you recall, at the beginning of the year, we passed out Chromebooks and we had a little bit of a shortage. Many kind parents opted to let their children use their home computers or their personal laptops, and now they're no longer comfortable with that. If that's you, and hey, wait a minute, my kid's hybrid, but I don't want them to bring their own personal laptop they've been using, we now have Chromebooks and we could issue your child a Chromebook to bring to school and home. So that is a question that was asked. We will have power strips for charging in the classrooms. There's one back there underneath the desk where students will be able to charge the Chromebooks. We understand, and laptops, that they may not work all day. If a student is bringing their own personal laptop, they definitely want to bring their own charging cable. If they're using our school Chromebook, bring the charging cable with them. If they happen to forget, we may have an extra, but not if they're bringing their personal laptop. And unlike first semester, we'll be expecting kids that are sitting virtually at home to turn on their cameras and be part of the class. So if I'm a teacher standing in front of this room, I'm looking at my students who are here and present. I'm looking at their faces, bright and shiny, eager to learn, and I'll be looking at faces on the TV screen. There may be issues with internet and things that have to be worked out, and it may not be possible, but we'll be asking students to turn on their Chromebooks. Their cameras on their Chromebooks at home. This allows for interaction. This allows for the class feel to happen. We were asked, in a virtual sense, well, how will it change for a student who's virtual? Very little. Students will get up, they will log into their Chromebook, they will see the teacher. So what will change? Where the teacher's teaching from, perhaps. Many teachers have been teaching from home. Now all teachers will be in the classroom. Teachers may just be in a different location, and they'll see some students, the back of their heads, or they'll see students in a classroom just as if they were sitting there. One of the questions was asked, how can we make virtual learning better. This is the greatest way you can do that, and that's to have students who are virtually to engage in the classroom. We're going to have it set up here, so I would ask at home, students get up, find that place to work, get ready for school, log in, turn the camera on, engage in each and every classroom. The number one reason the virtual doesn't work for some students is the lack of engagement. If you're at home, sit at a table, log into class, and you're going to participate on a daily basis. That would make it better. Question was asked, what activities will be done online? Will teachers have to design double activities? And this is going to be so much work for teachers. Questions of that nature. It will be work for teachers, and there's no doubt about it. They'll be learning new stuff. But isn't that the power of education? Teachers learning, students learning. To me, that's the greatest opportunity in our hybrid model. So teachers will have to design activities, but I could see an instance where students are grouped. 2 or 3 students sitting in a classroom using their Chromebook, work in a group with 2 or 3 students at home. Simple. Things like that can happen. Or grouping pairs, same thing. A student here paired with a student at home. A group of virtual students grouped on the screen and the students grouped here. You can see a lot of that. Science classes may be able to do an experiment where these students are cutting into, that's a terrible example, but if it's an anatomy class and they're dissecting an eyeball, these students could be dissecting an eyeball. Those students will be watching the dissection and learning from the students who are dissecting. There will be lots of activities that will need to be redesigned by teachers, but what a great opportunity for them too as well. It's a lot of work, but I see a lot of opportunity for our teachers to be learning leaders. Attendance was asked about. Attendance will not change. Attendance is a daily activity teachers conduct. Now, they will have a attendance where they will be taking attendance of the students sitting in front of them and the ones on the screen. Attendance will be taken every day. Attendance will be taken both of the virtual students and the students sitting here. Just as it is now and has been. A question was asked, if my child is sick, stays home because they're sick and they're a hybrid student, could they log in virtually? Absolutely. That's a benefit of our current system. In fact, if your child's feeling ill, has any kind of sickness or not feeling well, we would want them to stay home. And the beauty of it, they could log in, not miss class, and be present virtually. That is certainly acceptable. That's the basic classroom setup. So now that we know that, let's talk a little bit about what our schedule will look like. Starting our second semester, February 2nd, actually starting February 1st, but we start with a teacher workday, we'll begin our second semester. When we are in full swing of our schedule, the schedule itself will be very much the same as it is now. Mondays will remain asynchronous days. Students, whether hybrid or virtual, all students will be given asynchronous assignments on Mondays, just like they are now. Our X days will remain Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our Y days will remain Wednesdays and Fridays. The difference is our hybrid students have been divided into 2 groups. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Group A will come to school. On Thursday and Friday, Group B will come to school. Students were assigned to these groups by their last names. So if you have twins, they should be in the same group. And also, if you have 2 students with different last names living in the same household, they should be assigned to the same group. So if you have stepchildren, one has the last name of a B, and one at the beginning of the alphabet, and one at a W at the end of the alphabet, they should be in the same group. You might ask yourself, how can I check that? You can see which grouping they're in your Parent View account. I put out an email on how to access Parent View. If you look at the email I put out recently about checking how to access your Parent View account to see the groupings they're in. You can also see in there what you selected hybrid or virtual for your student. Students will attend class every day, 4 blocks if they're here, and they'll change classes, much like they did pre-COVID. Due to the massive schedule changes, there will be no staggered dismissals. When the bell rings, students will dismiss together, and students will be passing in the hallway. Keep in mind that we are looking at approximately 600 kids built in a school built for 2,000, changing classes. So there will be some passing in the hallways, some greetings. Hey Eric, what's up? Hey Bud, what's up? That's fine. Much like you and I would do at the grocery store if you saw someone you know. We encourage and will continue to encourage not to high five, shake hands, hug, kiss, whatever. We would encourage people not to do that because now you're exchanging contact. But certainly greetings, talking as you're walking to class, those are perfectly acceptable things. You're not going to be together more than a few minutes. So be much like you and I socializing in a grocery store or passing in the grocery store. It's momentarily passing. Everyone will have their mask on. We'll be walking directly to the next class. Questions were asked about breakfast and lunch. Yes, breakfast and lunch will be served. Breakfast will be a grab-and-go breakfast. Students can come into the building, grab their breakfast, head off to first class, eat their breakfast outside the classroom, and when they're done, they could come in the classroom, sit down, and have their seat. Lunch will be served in our cafeteria. Lunch, we'll talk briefly about that. We're going to do that in 2 lunch shifts. The students who have been here before, 9th graders may not know, but we do it by departments. Which departments, if you're in English class, so forth, math class, you will go to lunch at a certain time. It will be done in our second block because we are starting later in the day. So lunches will be in the cafeteria. Students actually are going to have more time than they used to have to sit down and eat. And we'll talk a little bit about social distancing and stuff down in the cafeteria in just a few minutes. And that's pretty much the day. The bus at dismissal time, students will, at the end of the day, 3:05, will get up, the bell will ring, and they'll head out to the bus and get on the bus or head to the parking lot and go home. That part of the day won't be that much different. I know many people, not many, but a few people in the questions referred to my video making it sound like a prison. Not my intent at all. But there will be some differences when it comes to hall passing and not being able to stop and talk. We are required, should something happen, to contact trace. So that's the reason for some of our protocols. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to intend to run it like a prison, but there are some protocols that we will have to follow. When students come in the morning, they're going to have to go directly to first block. There'll be no hanging around the hallways or the cafeteria, so once the bus arrives, students will get off the bus, we'll take their temperatures as they enter the building, and they'll go right to first block class. So now some specific content questions that were asked. There were questions about Governor School, how's that work, travel programs, how do they work, and students who are enrolled in Commonwealth Governor School and CTE programs are still going to travel and attend class as they have in past years. Like in previous years, Stafford County Public Schools will provide transportation from the base school, which is Mountain View, to our Governor School, which is North Stafford, and our travel programs and our STAT programs around the county. The Governor School, the junior, senior Governor Schools travel in the morning. The freshman, sophomore Governor Schools travel in the afternoon. Our buses leave in the morning. They leave midday during that lunch hour, and they will return at the end of the day. I don't have the exact time of those departures yet, but we do have, we will have a similar setup for those of you returning. 9th grade students, don't fear. We will show you where you will catch the bus if you are catching a bus to the Governor School. So don't worry, we'll have that covered and we'll share that with you. But you'll catch that bus on the bus ramp side over here in the middle of the hallway. But we'll help you get there the first day. No worries. A lot of learning the first day for our 9th grade students. But transportation is provided. Please note that for those students, that the travel bus does not leave in the morning till all our other buses arrive here with our students. And something new this year and only this year, COVID times does bring some opportunities for some changes that we're able to provide. Because our parking lots won't be as full, something new this year. Students who wish to maybe drive directly to their travel site in the morning or at lunchtime and then drive home or on to work will be able to do so this year with parent permission. And that would be by getting parent permission, filling out a parent permission form, and all of that good stuff. But an example, a Commonwealth Governor Senior or a student enrolled in a auto body class at North Stafford may elect to drive their first block before first block, go directly to class. At the lunchtime, at the end of their 2 blocks, they would drive back to Mountain View High School, or if you were taking your other 2 classes virtually, you may drive home. That may, if you are driving back to Mountain View, there's a couple things we'll have to deal with. You may have to register your car both at North Stafford and Mountain View. I'll talk about registrations later, but let me put your mind at ease. We are not charging for parking permits this year, but we do want a record of who's coming on school property, who's parking on school property. So, how do I get that parent permission? That sounds great to me. That will be coming from your teachers. Sometime probably at the end of January, it will be coming from your teachers. So, just keep that in mind. They may not know it yet, but trust me, it will be coming. So that's CGS and how it would work. The program would be the same. Those students over in the CGS programs would be in a similar setup with cameras and so forth. It is much tougher. The hands-on courses, especially the CTE programs that are 2 blocks, multi-blocks, our culinary arts here, our cosmetology courses, students do need to come in for those courses because you cannot take those courses. It's very difficult to do so virtually. Another question was asked about our physical-based classes, band, chorus, orchestra, PE. So I'll start with performing arts, our band, orchestra, and chorus. In terms of instruction, the computer in the classroom is hooked into the same owl. The students at home will be on mute. If you're at home virtually and you're participating in a band, you'll be, Mr. McDonald, Ms. Keene, Mr. Welch will be able to see you holding your instrument. Your mics will be on mute. And you will be able to play along just as the students in the classroom are playing the music. You will be able to hear well. This is a great microphone as well. You will be able to hear the classroom and hear the notes. The reason you will be on mute, you are on a 2-minute delay, approximately 2-minute delay. If your mics were on, we would be hearing the directors of music, Mr. Welch, Ms. Keene, would be hearing you, and Mr. McDonald 2 minutes after the fact. So that's why you would need to be on mute. So the owl picks up the playing very well. It picks up the instruments, and the teachers will be able to engage the whole class. They'll be able to give feedback. They'll be able to hear the students on the video and the students that are in front of them. If the students at home are asked to perform a passage, they will unmute. For example, Eric, I'd like to hear you play that piece. You would unmute, and then they could play your piece, and everybody in the class would be able to hear, and your peers could hear as well. There is a video about what performance classes will look like, created by Mrs. Anna Marie Bellino, our coordinator for fine and performing arts, and we'll post that to our website tomorrow as well as the video of tonight. PE will still be taught. I am looking into the possibility of dividing our classes into 2 groups, the groups that remain virtual with 1 PE teacher and the groups coming in with another PE teacher. So we are looking at some slight things there, but PE will happen and students will be required to participate. Health, driver's education, classroom, all that will be taught. Similar to this matter, this could be a driver's ed classroom. It's not, but it could be, where students will be participating virtually, and here in driver's ed virtual as well. Question was asked about behind the wheel. Behind the wheel will be offered. We have been offering it already since October. We offer behind the wheel through our PE classes. And for those of you who may not have a PE class but need behind the wheel, the beauty of our current schedule starting at 10 o'clock is we are offering sessions prior to school. So there's an opportunity that would not take you out of other classes, and you can get your behind the wheel. Information about driver's education behind the wheel can be found on our website. If you go to our home page and you look up the Programs tab at the very top and look at the drop-down menu, you will see information about driver's education behind the wheel. Questions were asked about PE and weightlifting class. We have Mrs. Leicester and Mr. Ramos, who are our strength and body coaches, will implement cleaning strategies so students will be able to lift weights. So we're excited about that. And much like if you go to One Life and cleaning off your equipment, and very similar, but the strategies will be for students to safely lift weights and participate in strength and body. CT classes. Several questions were asked about CT classes and hands-on. Again, I mentioned this earlier, students will be attending these classes. They are available for our students. You also have the option to attend them virtually, but I don't know that you have the same experiences, and you can't earn your industry certifications unless you're doing the hands-on portion. The question was asked, if I'm currently virtual for 2 blocks and coming in for my CTE courses, the other 2 blocks, can I continue to do that second semester? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can continue with your same schedule. There will be no requirement that because you're coming in for the 2 blocks of CT that you have to be hybrid. If you want to continue with that schedule, you certainly may do so. Questions were asked about SOL courses and SOL testing. The state of Virginia did not waive the SOL testing requirements in any way this year. They did lower the number of the score for passing from 400 to 350, but they have not waived the requirement to take and pass an SOL. To that end, we are required to give the SOL test. I know the question was asked, and a lot of stress is added in this environment, and I'm sorry, that's not a decision we make. We are beginning our fall SOL testing next week. Students will have to come into the school. Those tests are not given virtually. Students will have to come into school to take those tests. We start next Thursday giving our fall test, and our spring test, or the second semester test, which is beginning February 2nd, will happen in June. And those students who remain virtual will have to come into school to take tests in June. There were several questions about activities in athletics, and I'll address those in a group as well. Just like school itself, I had people who were on both sides of the fence. Why are you doing that? It's not safe. If it's too safe, if you're running your school like a prison, why are you having athletics, and so forth. Under the governor's orders, executive orders, we are permitted to offer extracurricular activities. It's provided we are following mitigation protocols, which we have in place, and I'll go over later. Given that our students have missed so much since last March, when this pandemic hit, I felt it was important, and I think a lot of people in the community and in Mountain View High School, I know, and even in the county, felt it was an opportunity to give our kids the opportunity to participate. Like the decision to attend school or not, the decision whether your child participated in those sports or not is a personal one, and one for you to make. But I felt like we needed to provide that opportunity, especially for those students who missed out on their spring sports season as juniors. We want to hopefully be able to do that. A couple quick questions I can answer. Students who are virtual, who may choose to be virtual, are Just like hybrid, both sets of students are eligible to participate in all extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Some people may select virtual because it's working great for them and they've got the best grades they've ever had and would like to stay virtual. You do have the opportunity to come in and participate in extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities does include athletics and does include performing arts, JRTC activities, clubs, and so forth. As they get started, as drama gets started, as marching band gets started, those activities will be announced and students will be able to come into the building. Again, we are following mitigation strategies, temperature taking, questionnaires, social distancing, mask wearing, that type of thing. Question was asked about water. Will there be enough water available for our athletes? Our indoor facilities, we do have the water bottle refill stations, which are still able to be used. We will not be able to use the drinking fountain portion, but the water fill stations will be. And then for outside, I would tell you, it's just like when your kid went to the field when they were little league, take plenty of water. You need to make sure you have extra water because we won't be able to share water bottles, share cups, that type of thing. So students will need to bring extra water or bring extra water bottles that they can fill up inside before they go outside. People were asking about indoor and activities as well, such as club meetings. Some of our club sponsors have started club meetings virtually. They will continue in a hybrid format where some students may be at that meeting in the classroom while other students are viewing that meeting online. And what about performing arts? Performing arts will begin similar. Students can perform here, online, or they may come in after school. I know that we have some of our performing arts is after school activities as well. So they will get started. Will everything come back in the first semester or the first time we're back? Not everything, but most activities will begin. Our ROTC program has begun. If you're in that program, you've seen the opportunities for marksmanship and cyber security competitions. So some things have already begun, but they will continue and they will come back. When will the activities begin? I just mentioned that. Winter sports began this past Monday. Fall sports were moved to, I'll say, midwinter. Fall sports will begin in February. Football and competitive cheer begin on the 4th of February, and our springs and the rest of our fall sports will begin on February the 15th, and all our spring sports are set to begin on April the 12th. I have been asked by many parents about coming to events. Again, the spectator participation is dictated by the governor's executive order. In the state of Virginia, you've seen some events where it's been very limited. It's very limited to high school, if at all. In the fall, in the winter sports that we're currently in, it was limited to 25 spectators. That included cheerleaders, so it was not room to put spectators in that 25. That's dictated as well. Perhaps when we move to outdoor sports, that'll change some and allow us to have more spectators and spectators at events. I did put out an email. We're in the process. We do have a camera in our gymnasium for indoor sports. It's the National Federation of High School Sports Network, where you can purchase a subscription. I think it's $11 for a month. It is a monthly subscription if you so choose, so you would only need to buy it for a couple months for a season. And we are in the process of getting cameras installed at our outdoor facilities as well, so that you could watch your student participate. Again, the key is giving kids the opportunity to participate in their sports and hopefully an opportunity for parents to see their kid play in the sports. Questions were asked about transportation, and several questions were asked about parking. For this semester, the upcoming semester that starts February 2nd, we will not be charging for parking permits this year. There will be no charge. However, every student who wishes to drive will need to register their car like they always have. I did send out an email about parking and attach the parking application, and each student will be given a parking permit. But we will ask that students register their car. This year, we will not be assigning parking spots because we'll have 2 people parking in the same spot on different days, and it was just a little bit too much. Parking will be open on the first arrive, first park basis. So if you want to be next to the school, get here early. Some people like to park far away. It will be an open parking system this year. First arrive, first park basis. That's no senior parking, no underclass, no need to rush down here and get a permit. Everyone will be able to drive if they so desire, and we will be and there's no need to purchase that prior to school starting February 2nd. I say purchase, pick up a parking permit. We can pick those up the first week we're back. So no need to come early to get a parking permit. What if I'm in that group, an A group, and I'm only coming to school 1 day a week for my culinary arts class, or I'm only coming to school 1 day a week for cosmetology when we get back to the hybrid, I'm in the A group. We do ask that you register your car so that we have a registration of every car that's parking in our student parking lot. There were questions asked about, just 2 questions asked about buses and transportation. I'm sorry, and I did not get answers to those questions for tonight. I don't have the information about buses other than bus transportation. Obviously will be provided in the protocols on the bus. Safety protocols. Let's spend some time talking about health and safety protocols because there were several questions about that. First, there's always a level of concern over COVID. I would be remiss if I said there wasn't. Question was asked, are we concerned about the new strands and the pop-up in the community and so forth? And yes. And we have a wonderful school nurse. Mrs. Horton is wonderful, and she and I talk several times a day. And we have a wonderful head nurse in Stafford County, Colette Hokana, and they're doing a great job. And Dr. Kisner's in constant conversation, weekly meetings with the Rappahannock Area Health Department. So the communication is there, and the concern is always there. All staff have been offered an opportunity to vaccinate. To get a vaccination. The first round of vaccinations are set to be happening very soon. I was told, we got emails today that they may start as soon as this weekend for teachers and school staff. And a question was asked, will the division mandate vaccinations for all? The division is not able to mandate vaccinations for all, but they have encouraged vaccination for everyone, but it won't be mandated. I went over much of the health mitigation strategies in the video that I had sent to everyone. I did not intend to make it look like or sound like it was going to be a prison. I apologize for that. Certainly not my intent. But a few reminders of that video that everyone who enters the building will have a temperature check. Students, staff have been getting my temperatures checked. I have gotten mine checked every day I walked in since we started back in August. And all staff will fill out a daily COVID questionnaire of their health, and we're cleared to work and come into the building. If we answered no to any of those questions, then we're not cleared and we have to go through our nurse protocol before we're able to come to work. Once coming into the building, everybody must wear a mask. That's students, teachers, staff, school nutrition, our custodian, and that will be at all times, except when eating lunch or eating breakfast. Students who have medical reasons why they can't wear a mask should be selecting the virtual option for their safety and everyone's safety around them. Everyone will be wearing a mask. That was an executive order from the governor, and that was a decision by our Stafford County School Board. So everyone will be wearing a mask. Mine's here. When I'm done, I'll put it on to walk to my office. Mask wearing is not optional, and by wearing a mask, we mean fully wearing a mask, to include over the nose. We won't have students going by with it like that or on their chin. We will not, this is not wearing a mask. So please know that we'll be enforcing the mask rule. Students who really don't want to comply or to the mask wearing rule will be asked to revert to the virtual option. That's as simple as that. If you don't mind, excuse me just 1 second. We're going to let this gentleman know that we're filming live and ask him to hold off on that. Excuse me just for that. So we do have hand sanitizers located throughout the building for anyone who would like to get a squirt of hand sanitizer as often as they want. Air purifiers, like the one that you might be able to see behind me. Is it on screen? Yeah. Over this shoulder is an air purifier. Have been located in every classroom. The air purifying system was just an addition. Our system does not circulate air. It brings air in and out, but it doesn't circulate, so we have an extra air purifier in every classroom. Students will be sitting 6 feet apart in classrooms, wearing their mask all the time. Students will be sitting 6 feet apart in our cafeteria. At that point in time, students will be able to remove their mask to have lunch once they're seated at their desk. Our cafeteria, if you saw the video, has been the tables removed and we have desks sitting like this. Students will have assigned seats. Assigned by selection. By that I mean students can sit where they want, they can sit around their friends. All we're asking is once you select your seats, you find your friends, that's where you sit every day. Newsflash, that's typically what happens in high school normally when our tables are out. Kids sit in the same tables every day once they figure out where they want to sit. That's what we're asking. When students decide where they want to sit, they sit there every day. That becomes their assigned seat, assigned by choice. And this is being done because students will be sitting around each other with their masks down for contact tracing purposes. So that's the reason the seats are assigned. Seats will be assigned in classrooms. Again, kids can sit where they want, but that should be their seat. Students will be responsible for the cleaning of their desk, much like you would at One Life. We have solution in our classrooms. I don't have an example. Teachers will be, so the process will be very simple. In every classroom, there is hand sanitizer that's conveniently located, and it actually says hand sanitizer. And students will come in, take a squirt of hand sanitizer. The desk will be squirted with solution. They'll take a paper towel and wipe it down, have a seat and study. Kind of like going to the gym. I do the same thing. Before I get on the treadmill, I'm going to clean it off because I don't know who was there before me. At the end of the class, students will do the same thing. The teacher will spray the desk and chair. The students would clean it, take some hand sanitizer, and go on to the next class and do the same thing. Kind of like the treadmill at the gym. Clean it before you get on it, and clean it when you get off. Very similar to that. Students will be moving from point A to point B. They won't be stopping to gather because they can't contact trace. Again, saying hello, greetings, stopping for a second, and hey, how's it going? Hey, you going to basketball? Yeah, that type of thing. That's one thing that's a little different. But students who have been in schools know what we're referring to when we talk about that. Our bathrooms are open between bell changes. Students are going to be able to use the bathroom, wash their hands. There's plenty of soap. If a student wants to just stop in and wash their hands, that will be available for students to use between bells. We are looking at our bell system about adding an extra minute into bell changes to make sure everyone has that opportunity. But the bathrooms are open and students can use the bathroom. Our hallways have been clearly marked. You may have seen that in the video. We have arrows for hallways that happen to be narrow so that they are one way. And we have arrows on the right side and left side of the hallway so students know which side of the hallway to walk. And again, much like you might pass someone in the grocery store, students will be passing in the hallway within that 6 feet that would be momentarily passing. A question was asked how we are going to ensure students remain 6 feet apart. I firmly believe that students will do their best. And again, walking down a hallway within that 6 feet thing for a momentarily second is not a big deal. But I do believe that students will rise up to the expectations when it comes to sitting in classrooms, sitting in the cafeterias. And of course I expect to remind students often, keep moving. Sorry guys, you can't sit around and talk, and I know I'll have but I'm not going to become the 6-foot police either. And then finally, we all have to take responsibility. We are talking about young adults in a school. I would encourage, we must take responsibility for our own personal safety, to include the wearing of the mask properly, the washing of our hands. I have a little Fitbit watch that I wear, and it reminds me to wash my hands several times a day. And be honest with ourselves, our families, and be, for the sake of each other, be honest when we're not feeling well and shouldn't be in school. We're not feeling well where we do get sick, be honest, stay home. Tell the parents it's a team effort to make this successful and to keep each other safe. Like I said, we need to make sure we're respecting each other enough to do that, and for our own personal safety and cleaning, and not engage in risky behaviors. I talked about high fives and slapping hands and sharing items, and just remembering, growing up, we were taught to share, and now for the next few months at least, until we get past this, we're not in a sharing type of environment. So kind of backwards a little. I was asked if I thought there would be infections. I don't know how to answer that. Students may get infected. It can happen at home. It can happen at a student's job site. It could happen in many places. So yeah, students could get infected. I did have an opportunity to visit Patrick Henry High School in Roanoke, Virginia. They have been doing a in-school hybrid model like we are at 50% capacity since the beginning of the year. And they've had very few cases of COVID transmission in the school. Lots of cases where students haven't been able to come to school because it's at the home, but not in the school. Very few cases of COVID transmission. Very few, and I think he said 2, I believe was the number, transmissions of teachers that they've traced at school. They've had teachers who have quarantined and gotten COVID, but it has not been at school. So, do I think it might happen? Of course it might happen. So I can't really answer that. But I believe that the protocols we put in place, and we've been asked to put in place, the mitigation protocols, will work with compliance and with effort and with teamwork and respect for each other. Yes, I believe it will work. I was asked several opinion types of questions, and that made it very difficult, honestly. And I'll do the best I can with some of them. Do you think the hybrid learning simply just makes things more complicated? Absolutely it does. But complication doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. In the process of making this complicated, I do believe we are meeting the needs of some of our learners that we were not meeting virtually. Is it a lot more work for teachers? It's more work. But I don't think it's a bad thing. And I have faith in the teachers at Mountain View. They're great. They have worked their tails off. They've done a lot of learning themselves, learning how to use Canvas. Nobody knew how to use Canvas in August, but the teachers learned on the fly. I see a lot of learning on how to use these owls and the big monitors and the Chromebooks, and the learning curve has been steep for our teachers. So yes, it's going to be complicated, and do I think it's going to be more work for teachers? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. So, but I just have faith in them. They're going to rise up to the challenge. It's a wonderful teaching community, and I'm going to tell you right now, they're already working on it. Some of them, at least 50 teachers, have been in the building working. All of them will be coming back next week to help with SOLs, and the excitement's there. So to get back to work and work with our students. I was asked, what are three key important things that the hybrid system does better than virtual, and what are the three key important things that the virtual system does better than the hybrid? I can't answer that question because they're not about better. They're different for different needs. Some students, and I'll give you a good example, the hybrid system allows for students to get some normalcy. It does allow for some students to have a sense of socializations, to be in a setting, albeit with masks 6 feet apart, and to socialize with students. And some students need that for well-being. That's a positive of hybrid. But a positive of virtual is some students don't want that or need that, and they like virtual because they don't have to be in that social environment. I can't tell you that there are three key where one is better than the other. That's why it's a personal decision. What's good for my child? What does my child need? That's a personal decision. And I'm not sure I can give you three key things that make virtual better over hybrid or hybrid over virtual. The biggest difference is the hybrid students are going to have some socialization, some contact with teachers, and not be looking at the screen to see their teacher all day. But again, that's not a bad thing for some. For some students, it was tough to look at a screen all day and then do homework on a screen all night. For some, it wasn't a problem. So an advantage not having to do that in a hybrid is not an advantage for someone who didn't mind it or enjoyed the screen. So they're different and for different learning needs. I've had people tell me the question for the virtual format. Why are we doing this? Why are we going back? Because it wasn't working for everybody. So that's the reason. No one system works for every student, and I believe that. Was asked, a great question was asked about how we may or will address learning loss. And this pandemic has definitely created some learning gaps for our students and learning loss and what that might look like. And we are making attempts. The question, in fact, is how's an attempt to make up the huge amount of educational loss to students who have struggled or have failed in virtual learning. We will be offering some summer remediation, some summer enrichment programs, opportunities. You may have heard the governor, even in his last press conference, proposed year-round school. I don't know if that'll be a reality, but there will be some opportunities for students who have needs. That's our job, is to help students who have some learning loss. You will, some students, all of our students, not all of our students, our students have taken reading assessments in English classes, and our students have taken math assessments and math classes. That has given us insights on how students are doing and how they are doing in math and English. Those scores have given insight, and so we have done some testing to see if our students have fallen behind and what concepts that they don't know. Math teachers have looked at those scores and have adjusted curriculum to meet the needs of our students, another way that we are meeting the needs of the students. I was asked, it was interesting, I'll leave the expletive out, but do you really think this will work? I do. I have faith in our system. I have faith in the mitigation strategies. Will it be bumpy? Of course. I've never done this before. I can't say that anyone does. I heard our superintendent say that there's no playbook, and he's right. Sometimes you can consult a book and look for ideas, and there is none on here. So do we have it all figured out? We have a lot of things figured out, yes, and there'll be some bumps, but I do think this system can work. I'm excited about the possibilities for our students. I look forward to seeing students again. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you. I look forward to that. And if I can leave you with anything, know that we're going to work our tail off to make this system successful, and we're going to work hard to make sure that we're trying to meet the needs of our students. That's our goal, and that's what we want to try to make all of this work. I hope I got to, I had to group some of the questions, and I hope I got to all of them. My email's there. If I didn't get to your question in some way or form or fashion, of course, don't do it tonight. Wait till tomorrow. Send me an email, and I'll be glad to get back to you, because I want to make sure your questions are answered and you're comfortable, especially for students coming back in a hybrid, comfortable with what we're doing, how we're doing, and so forth. Thank you all for your attention. My goal was to keep this at an hour, so I talked fast, and I think I'm pretty close to 1 hour. So thank you all very much. Have a great evening.